Almost a year after he first appeared on the Mega Drive, Joe Musashi is back on the console once again in Shadow Dancer: The Secret of Shinobi. But unlike Revenge of Shinobi, which was a console-exclusive sequel to the original arcade game, Shadow Dancer is actually based on the arcade sequel to the arcade game, though it's not entirely faithful to its coin-op cousin. It can be a little confusing. Let me explain. In November 1989, around the same time Revenge of Shinobi was hitting the Mega Drive, Sega released a direct-to-arcade sequel called Shadow Dancer. It featured Joe Musashi's son Hayate and his dog Yamato. The major gameplay improvement here was the ability to attack enemies with Yamato, briefly stunning them and giving Hayate a chance to safely take them out. The Sega Master System got a direct port of the arcade game in 1991. It's actually pretty impressive, all things considered, though Yamato didn't make the cut and the game is way too hard. The Mega Drive version of Shadow Dancer is very similar to the previously released eSWAT, in that it's not as much a direct port as it is inspired by the arcade original. You can see it almost immediately. The first level of Shadow Dancer is an earthquake-racked city on fire, as opposed to the arcade's airport setting. And the game just diverges even more from there. In an interview with the Sega Mega Drive Genesis Collected Works, director Tomohiro Kondo talked about how he wanted to preserve the fundamentals of the arcade game, but he was also aware that it wasn't necessarily the best console experience. So he chose to make a game that added a bit of complexity and played to the Mega Drive's strength. Shadow Dancer feels like a throwback to that first game in a lot of ways. While Revenge of Shinobi introduced the concept of a life bar and weapon management to the series, Shadow Dancer goes back to unlimited throwing stars and one-hit deaths. Shadow Dancer also brings back the first-person bonus stages. Well, the arcade version did anyway. The Mega Drive version has a much cooler bonus stage as far as I'm concerned. Pro tip: falling down the left side of the bonus stage and spamming on the fire button will almost always net you 3 extra lives. Or if you don't hit a single ninja on the way down, you automatically get a single one up. Even though it plays a lot like the original Shinobi, Shadow Dancer manages to feel fresh thanks to the inclusion of the dog Yamato. Sure, he barks a bit too much, but he's great for getting Hayate out of a jam, especially when you come across enemies that are laying prone and firing at you. Yamato will get them standing up in a hurry and unable to attack. He's a great midpoint between your standard offense and the screen-clearing ninja magic. One weird bit about this game: when it made the trip across the Pacific, Sega of America decided that it should star the original main character, Joe Musashi. It doesn't really affect the game in any way, it's just an odd little change in the US localization. From a presentation standpoint, Shadow Dancer just oozes style. In that same Collected Works interview, Tomohiro Kondo says the stages for the Mega Drive version were changed due to the severe size limit of the cartridge. Fitting the large set pieces found in the arcade game on a 4 meg cartridge just wasn't an option. So the team decided to go for a more tile-based approach, leaving the Statue of Liberty to be the one major set piece in the game. And while that stage does look cool, Nearly every area of Shadow Dancer has an incredible visual style. But my favorite bit about the game has to be the soundtrack. Well, the entire sound design, actually. The music just has this great vibe all its own, and it's accompanied by some really unique sound effects. I especially love the use of voice samples in the bonus stage. In the Collected Works interview, Tomohiro Kondo notes that another team was working on Revenge of Shinobi at the same time his team was toiling away on Shadow Dancer, and he praises that game. In particular, he praises the amazing soundtrack by Yuzo Koshiro. But really, Keisuke Sukahara's Shadow Dancer soundtrack is great in its own right. Shadow Dancer brings both a classic Shinobi style while giving the whole thing a very modern facelift, and succeeds in almost every way.